In this video, I'm going to give you some basic concepts to consider when handicapping NHL for the 24-25 season, help you be profitable long term. Also going to give you all my power rankings for today, October the 22nd. My name is MG Covers. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in. Before we do that, I do want to mention, don't forget to follow me on Instagram. We give out a ton of content there as well. There's a link in the description box. All you have to do is click that link and it will take you straight to my Instagram page. We have something called Free Fridays. Give out all my lines for all sports on Fridays. Also give out another Sharps free play for UFC on Thursday. His free plays have gone 8-0 in the last 8 plays, which is absolutely incredible. So you get a ton of value. Simply follow me on Instagram. Okay, what you see on the screen here, look on the left. These are my power rankings for today, October the 22nd. And we'll quickly review the model from last year. We had a lot of success with this. Believe it or not, this is a client's model that was part of the coaching program. I'll cover that at the end of the video if you want to get personally coached by me on how to build models. It went 81 and 76, slightly over 50%, but it was up 19.25 units. And you can see here it cashed a lot of dogs, 1.15, 1.9, 1.45, 2.11. So you can cash a lot of money line dogs in NHL. Now, let's talk about some basic concepts to consider when handicapping NHL. First off, in NFL, home teams only win about 50% of the time. It's down like 1%. Home teams are winning 49% of the time in NFL. However, in NHL, they win close to 60%. It's 54% right now. You can see that there. However, that will get closer to 60% as the season progresses. And also favorites win a large majority of the time. You can see their favorites winning 60%. Dead on the number, dogs win 40%. Very similar to Major League Baseball. And one big advantage you have in NHL, home favorites, you can see already winning 61.8%. Again, obviously there's juice involved with that as well, but I'll talk about some different strategies to consider when handicapping home favorites. But just know home favorites win roughly 60% of the time. Now, let's talk about looking at the home teams and showing you where you can find some value. This was year-to-date stats from last year, and you'll see home teams generally, even the better teams, will have even better record at home. For example, check out the New York Rangers, 30-11. That's well over 30. That's well over 70% at home, and obviously a really good hockey team at 69%. Win percentage overall. I think I'm reading that right. And then scroll down here to check out Colorado. They were 50-25, but they were 31-9 at home. I mean, that's almost 80%. So a really solid home team. Now, something else really interesting. Check out Columbus. Columbus was 43-12 overall. But look at what they were at home. They were 17-19-5 at home. So a lot of times you'll have a really bad team. They'll be huge dogs, but they'll be playing at home. So sometimes you will see this quite often in NHL when you have a really good team playing a bad team, but the bad team will be huge dogs, but the quote bad team will be at home. And sometimes you can find a ton of value. And I'll show you an example in today's lines as well where you can play. And again, you just don't want to randomly play a home team as a dog simply because they're home. So you'd want to have value, so maybe some other situational angles in your favor like line movement, maybe a goalie advantage for NHL. But there's definitely a distinct advantage for home teams in NHL. Okay, that being said, let's dive over here and actually look at some lines. What you'll see over here are my power rankings, and what I did was I ranked every team from 1 through 32, and I kind of highlighted the top 10 teams in green, and I highlighted the bottom 7 teams in red. And that's just so I can get a general overview. Now, what's real important when you start a new season, you don't want to, the first day you run your power rankings, and basically teams have played about 5 games, you do not want to wager, right? You want to track it and see if the model looks good. You might have to make some adjustments, and I've learned this probably in the last couple of years. Really need to take your time getting into a season. Sports change. You'll have a paradigm shift like what we've seen in NFL. The first model we use, in fact, I just changed the model yesterday. So it could it might require some changes. Major League Baseball went through a paradigm shift. That was 3 years ago. Struggled. Last 2 years, extremely profitable. So it's an ongoing process. Every year is different, and you never know what's really going to happen. So you have to approach each season being very cautious. So really what I'm looking for when I create a model for the first time, or I'm looking at it in a new season, I want to make sure these top 10 teams are winning and these bottom, say, 7 teams are losing. As elementary as that sounds, that's real important. And then maybe I notice a trend where if the team is in the middle, that dog is winning, say, 50% of the time, which is what we call a 50-50 game. So let's go through these, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts and some concepts to think about here. All right, so Washington, Philadelphia. We have Washington 11th. Philadelphia is at the bottom, so that's basically what you call a play against concept. Pretty good line. It opened at plus 105. Lines moved slightly in favor of Washington, which I think that's a good line. Again, I wouldn't consider that a lean on Washington. Again, what I'm looking at is seeing if we can, or I would actually look at that. I want to see the results of that. Take that back. There is probably a lean on Washington. But again, I'm really focusing on these top 10 teams here, even though Washington's just outside of the top 10. Minnesota and Florida. We have Minnesota at 6th best team. We have Florida, basically a middle of the pack team. And that's a good potential play for a dog. You have plus 135 open. Line moves slightly in favor of Minnesota. That makes sense. And majority of time, if a team is halfway decent and they're playing at home, they're going to be favored. So just sort of know that when you're analyzing NHL. Tampa Bay and New Jersey, another important point to make. Teams coming off a back-to-back in hockey. There is a distinct advantage, a fatigue advantage for New Jersey in this game. Tampa lost, got blown out last night by Toronto. So you got New Jersey rested. You got Tampa playing on what they call a back-to-back. And it's probably more fatigue than, I would say, basketball, just because hockey is a lot more physically demanding than basketball. Basketball, cardiovascular, but so is NHL. But NHL there's a ton of contact in NHL, so definitely keep that into consideration. You have New Jersey. We have them as the 7th best team. Tampa, we have both these teams are top 10 teams. So kind of using the concept we did with Major League Baseball, I would probably more than likely pass because both of these teams are in the top 10. Dallas and Buffalo. We have Dallas, number 4 team. We have Buffalo as a bottom team, so we're getting some. That's a good line by the books. Books have that bookmaker at minus 149, so we're getting some value there with Dallas. So I would definitely like to see Dallas win that one via the model. Rangers, Montreal. This is a good line by the books. We have Rangers as the 2nd best team in NHL. We have Montreal 25th. Rangers are heavy favorites. Same thing with Toronto and Columbus. Toronto is heavy favorites there, minus 225. We have Columbus middle of the pack. And Toronto is, 5th best team. Again, maybe consider that what we talked about earlier. You have this really good team on the road playing a average team at home, and that's probably why you've seen this line movement move slightly in favor of Columbus there, plus 193 down to plus 188 in favor of Columbus. Detroit and the Islanders. We have Detroit at 24th. We have the Islanders at 21st. So that's basically a 50-50 game. So who do you think they're going to favor? They're going to favor the home team, and Islanders are minus 155. If Detroit was home, not sure what the line would be, but it would definitely be a little bit different. Maybe not Detroit would be a favorite, but they might be like a small dog, like maybe plus 105, 110, somewhere in that range. Winnipeg and St. Louis. We have Winnipeg as the best team in NHL. And that's reflected in the line movement, open at minus 131, currently at minus 155. St. Louis is middle of the pack team. Vancouver and Chicago. This is a really good example of a 50-50 game. You'll have a lot of 50-50 games cash in NHL. And I'll explain that again. Vancouver, 17th best team. We have Chicago as a 22nd best team. So via the power rankings, there's only a 5-point differential. And what I mean by that, 22 minus 17 is 5, so they're very close. And the difficult part for the books, when you have two teams that are very close, they have to make one the favorite and one the underdog. In this case, they made Vancouver the favorite. However, Chicago's at home, and that line's pretty much stayed the same. A little bit of movement there in favor of Vancouver. So that's a situation where we talked about, we have these teams basically even via the model. You have Chicago at home, very difficult to win as an away team, even though Vancouver are favorites there. So some value there with Chicago in that particular game. Colorado and Seattle, we have Colorado as a bottom tier team. We have Seattle as the 8th best team in hockey. So you're definitely getting some value there with Seattle at home there. That line has sort of reflected that. Line moved in favor of Seattle from plus 108 down to plus 102. Boston and Nashville. Really want to talk about Nashville and show you a really good example. Nashville are favorites, and they are 0-5. Boston is, I got Nashville as the worst team in NHL. Obviously, they're gonna win some games, right? And they could turn this around, but for now, we have them as the worst team in NHL via the power rankings and via the stats that we use. And they're favorites now. We got Boston coming in as a middle tier team, 15th best team. And very important to remember about lines in NHL. I'm going to have to move myself around here. Lines are based on market perception. And what I mean by that, let me pull up this. Okay, what I mean by market perception is books set line based on the perceived value of that team, the market's perceived value. Those of you that invest in the stock market kind of understand this. For example, Spirit Airlines, there's been a ton of reports about Spirit potentially filing bankruptcy. They haven't filed bankruptcy, right? They're still operating, they're still functioning, but their stock has dropped dramatically because the perceived value is that they're probably going to file bankruptcy. Very similar to NHL. Nashville, I think, prior to this game with Detroit was 0-4. But the market still perceived, even though Nashville hadn't won a game, they still perceived Nashville to be a, quote, decent team. So the line reflected that. But statistically, via my power rankings, they were not. Detroit was the underdog in this game. Nashville was a favorite. Detroit won convincingly there, 5-2 with 3 goals to the third period. So again, always remember that about sports betting. It's based on the perceived value of that team in the marketplace. If the marketplace perceives that team to be, quote, good, they'll generally be the favorite, irregardless of stats. Okay, let's go back to our odds here. And again, even in this game, they're favored. Carolina and Edmonton. Carolina is 14th best team. We have Edmonton at the bottom. So that would be a, quote, play against concept, meaning you're playing against Edmonton because they're a, quote, bad team. Got Carolina at plus 110. Ottawa and our new Utah team here. Actually not bad to start. We have Utah as 12th, Ottawa as 20th. So we have both of those teams as basically mid-tier teams. That's probably a pretty good line by the books, meaning if Ottawa was at home, they would probably be the favorite. Pittsburgh and Calgary, I think this is a really good play for the home team. Basically what we talked about at the beginning of this video. We have Calgary as the 3rd best team. We have Pittsburgh as the 27th best team. So we have a huge differential between these teams. Calgary is at home. They are a favorite. That ties into the statistical property for NHL, and we're getting good line movement opening up at minus 115. Now it's up to minus 121. And that's probably the strongest play on the board, in my opinion, even though I'm not wagering any real dollars here, just tracking the model to get a gauge and feel for the model here to start the season. San Jose and Anaheim. San Jose plus 160. That line's moved heavily in favor of San Jose. Let's take a look at the power rankings. We have San Jose as the 31st best team, Anaheim as 23rd best team. So basically both of these teams are, quote, bad teams, and that's probably why you're seeing that line movement move in favor of San Jose, even though Anaheim's at home. And then wrapping this up, Los Angeles and Vegas. We have LA as 13th best team, Vegas as the 10th best team. So these teams are really tight, and line sort of reflects that. Vegas is at home, so obviously Vegas is going to be the favorite if both teams are equal. So you can see how you're starting to get educated on how lines work with NHL. That line will more than likely be shaded towards the home side, and rightfully so, because again, just to sort of review and summarize all this, favorites, home teams is a more times than not a strong play. I wouldn't simply play a team because they're home and they're a favorite, but however you calculate or handicap NHL, if you have some value via your model, or you have some situational angles in your favor, maybe you have a goalie advantage, you're playing against a team that's coming off a back-to-back, and the team you're wanting to play for is home and they're a favor, and you're getting line movement, you have a lot of things moving in your favor. So anyway, I hope this video helps. If you want access to these NHL power rankings every single day, you can get access $50 a month. There's a link to join the description. You also get access to all of my coaching videos. I have over 180 coaching videos on the website, teach you this business, how to get better, how to understand how to handicap a lot more in depth than I explain on YouTube. You can also get access to all my plays, $100 a month. And if the best value, instead of paying $100 a month, you can pay $4.99 one time. You save about $600 on the year, and you get access to everything on the entire site for $500. Greatly appreciate you guys watching this video. Stay tuned. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.